Rebecca, welcome. We are so excited. This is a long-awaited episode for people.
I'm so honored to be here, y'all. I do believe we could have just talked forever before this started. Excited to connect today and share about color and beauty and some encouragement.
So Rebecca, just tell us, how did you get into this and why?
Yes. So ever since I was a little girl, I have loved beauty. So I have loved, I grew up on the California coast and I've just been in awe of like God's creation and beauty. You have like the flowers, the palm trees, where I grew up, the ocean, right? The mountains. It was a beautiful place to grow up. And I quickly realized early on in life that color was powerful. Like color could evoke emotion. I grew up doing theater and when they put someone in a certain role, they put them in certain colors, right? If it's like a role where maybe they're the bad guy. Okay. I think about even like Bruno from Encanto. You guys know like Bruno, they put him in this type of green and he kind of looks sickly a little bit throughout the time. There's purpose to color in that for him. Or like the princess in a movie, like there's color harmony for her. Like she looks beautiful and glamorous and enchanting, It was the same in theater. They would put people in different colors for certain reasons. And so when I actually ended up hearing about color analysis, it all made sense to me because of just past knowledge about like color harmony in nature and then using color in theater and film. It made sense that color was powerful. And there are certain colors on people that make them look their absolute most harmonious self. And there are certain colors that people also wear that can make them look maybe more tired or sickly or washed out and pale. And so my friend introduced color analysis to me, I think it was around like 2011. So a while back. And she had her colors done in Canada and found out then about True Color International, which is where I'm certified and trained. And she reached out to me and said, they're coming to train in Dallas. And I was like, I should do this. I should be a color analyst because I want to celebrate people and beauty. And I don't know if you guys have ever done something in your life when it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense right now. Like, how is this going to work with my life? My youngest son had just been born at the time. And like, why go back to school and learn something new? But it was like, God just put so much peace in me and my husband where we knew this is the next path and the next step to take, but I have no clue how to be a color analyst. I have no clue how color works in this way for people really, but I need to learn and train and develop in that. And so that's when Colorpolitan was born, and I've been doing this now for, I've been certified for almost 7 years and doing this work. Actually, I went to certification 7 years ago this fall, but I finished my certification. It'll be about 6 years here soon. So yes, yeah, it's been a fun journey.
So tell us a little bit about how you see each person is unique and created by God specifically for their color palette. Because I even find that interesting, that why is it that each one of us has different eye color, different skin tones, different hair color, and that creates a certain kind of beauty that is unique to them?
Yes, I love that question. That's a great question, Krista. So when you look at our world, so just think about nature first. Okay, so I want to talk about color harmony in our world, and then we're going to get to human coloration. So think about like the Grand Canyon. Okay, have you guys been to the Grand Canyon? Yes. So not yet. Alex, you need to go.
No, I need to go. And I live close. Relative to the world,
Yes, you need to go. It's so beautiful. Or like the Florida coast. You have these different parts of the world that have color harmony in nature. And my firm belief is because that was intentional. God made it that way. So you have the Grand Canyon where the coloring all works together, the rocks, the trees, the sand, like the dirt, it all works together. Then you have the Florida coast where you have like the light water and the seashells and the sand, and that works together in Florida. The Grand Canyon has its own color range. there's purpose to that coloring, but you would like never put them together. Like we probably wouldn't think, oh, this looks good. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And we are designed to love beauty. Like we just love beauty and natural beauty at that. Think of how we get to enjoy nature. And so there's purpose in that coloring, these different parts of the world, and there's purpose in our own coloring. So each of us, I truly believe, Psalm talks about being fearfully and wonderfully made, right? So we are fearfully and wonderfully made individuals. We each have our own beautiful coloring to our eyes, even the depth of your eyes. If you took a telescope and went in there and saw more, there's so many more colors of your eye, your beautiful skin tones, your natural hair color, even from like birth until you pass away, like when it's really gray. There is natural harmony in your coloring, and that is intentional. So what's really neat about just kind of seeing yourself that way is really understanding I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My coloring has purpose and intention to it. It is truly perfect the way that it is. I think so oftentimes we try to change ourselves, and we're told that, especially as we're getting older, like, oh, in order to be beautiful, in order to do this, in order to do that, you need to do this. Now, I do believe in self-care. I think it's important to care for our bodies and our skin and ourselves, be a good steward of what we have. But actually, like thinking, oh, well, in order to be beautiful, I have to wear this hot pink. Or in order to be beautiful, I need to do this or that. You're beautiful the way you are. And what this color analysis method does, like what I do in my studio and what I get to speak into these women who come, is you're beautiful the way that you are. And here are the colors designed to go with your beauty. Because the goal is to not change you. The goal is to celebrate you. And that's really sometimes profound for people when they've lived their life being told you need to change, or a mom said you need to fix this, or a friend says do this and that. Instead of just looking at your true beauty and your 3 dimensions of color, your own coloring, and going, oh, I can just wear colors from nature, like from the colors around me that belong with my beauty. It's really profound for some.
So Krista mentioned in the introduction that this is something that some of us heard about when we were little. I mean, I think women our age remember our moms kind of being into it. And it feels like it's made a real resurgence in the last even 6 months.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on as far as why people are responding to this right now?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple things. We're always, I think, again, we're looking for something to improve ourselves, right? So, or some people really see, oh, this can make a big difference, in having color harmony for yourself. But I think it's really made this resurgence because color is fascinating. It really is. And so, in the traditional method, which still people are still doing traditional dates, it's if you're winter, summer, spring, or autumn, like Krista said before. But what the method that I use, we actually look at 12 different unique color palettes that are not just warm or cool in undertone, but also neutral in undertone, because 67% of people are actually neutral in undertone. So they don't really fit into the 4 seasons, traditional season. And I think people have started to realize that. Like, I actually have a lot of women who did this in the 80s who now come to the studio and they're experiencing it in a new way, and they may get a different color palette. Now, people knew what they knew back then, right? So they knew what they knew in the 80s, but it's just really shifted and changed over time to be even more precise and even more accurate because of how we look at 3 dimensions of color. You also have like TikTok and Instagram, all the fun filters, which I don't necessarily recommend because a lot of people are now coming in very color confused. I like to say it because they've done the filters and they've done the online analysis, and now their brain is like, wait, what am I? Because AI is trying to tell them, or someone behind the screen. You have to do this in person to truly see like your natural beauty and coloring and how it works with those 3 dimensions of color in the in-depth analysis. But I think just it's fun. I think that's also why it's gotten big again. It's a fun thing to do with friends or individually, because, the way that we look at it with our method, with the TCI method, is again, celebrating your beauty and not changing you. And that's a kind of a new concept for some. And so it's can be mind blowing sometimes. It's fun. It's a celebration of you. It's really picking up. You're right. And doing this now for over 6 years, it's like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of people wanting color analysis, which is exciting. Yeah.
Well, because I think it does dovetail well with this idea that color brings out the best in us, and God made it that way. So
yes,
there's something just really special about that, because it is true. When I'm wearing a color that looks good on me, it really doesn't matter what the shape of the shirt is or the dress. People respond to the color and how it's bringing out my eyes or my skin tone or whatever. I literally have had, this has been such an interesting experience. And I wasn't trying to do like an experiment, but I was in Nordstrom one day and I was wearing this certain green, and I only have one item of clothing with this particular green. Like, that's it. And I literally had 3 people stop me and say, "Oh my gosh, that color is great on you." And I was like,
wow,
weird. And how do I find more of this color? Because this has never happened when I've worn any other green. And so I need to figure out what this green is and how I get more of it in my closet. But I mean, it is interesting because they weren't responding to the item itself. They were responding to the color. And that is so fascinating to me, that it can make that much of a difference where you literally will have strangers. But I do it to other people. I will stop people and say, wow, that color looks so good on you.
Yes.
And so isn't that interesting how it really does make a difference in even maybe how we're feeling in a piece of clothing?
Yes. And because harmony is peaceful, color harmony is peaceful. It feels good. It looks good. And so when you're in harmony with the colors that you're wearing, and you could have the rainbow, right? It's just what versions are better. Your own versions of red and green and yellow. And, I think that's such a great story that you shared, because it's true. People notice harmony and they want to talk about it, and disharmony is where like you're shifting and changing with certain colors in a negative way. And that can create some negative optical illusions on your skin, but also like people not paying attention as long if you're like speaking, or, just some form of like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Because it's true, when there's disharmony, we don't feel right, whether it's the person observing and seeing you or you yourself. So I love what you shared. I love that you shared that. And that's, it's fun to think about, because you've seen that with other people as well. The harmony, that's probably what you're looking at and celebrating,
That's interesting. The harmony. It's like, I was telling Alex this one time that I watched The Jewish Matchmaker on Netflix. I think it was.
Is that good?
Well, someone had said they thought I reminded them of her, so I wanted to check it out. But actually, when I started watching it, what I noticed is how they put her in color, like what colors they put on her. And I was fascinated by it, because I was like, they know what they're doing. So, a good example, if people, listening want to go see how someone does harmonious color well, go watch The Jewish Matchmaker and see what the producers put her in, because it was like perfect for her color.
Ooh.
Okay, so I mean, let's dive in a little bit to some practicals and to some specifics, and maybe, even you could use Alex as an example or me as an example. But when someone comes to you, how do you begin? What do you look for?
Yes. So honestly, the beginning point that I love about this appointment time with a client is getting to know them first. So I actually ask some questions, get to know their story. So like if you both came in together, I would have been like, tell me about yourself. I want to hear about your story. What brings you joy in life? Some people don't really want to talk about what they do. And I'm totally great with that too. They just want to talk about their family and whatnot. And I love getting to know people. And then we would go into talking a little bit about color theory, because it's really important before we begin the scientific process in my studio that we sit down and we talk about the Munsell color system. That's like a whole deep dive into color theory, the Munsell system. We talk about harmony and disharmony. I actually show some visual examples for them. So I'm really educating in advance before we officially begin together during our time. So we talk about all that and what we're looking for through the system, which is your undertone being one of 4 undertones. There's the warm, the cool, warm neutral or cool neutral, the light to dark color potential for a client from the lighter versions to medium to darker colors, the soft chroma to bright chroma or medium. That's like your saturation. So each person has their own hue, undertone, value range, light to dark, and chroma, which is saturation from soft, medium to bright. Okay. So I know that that's a lot right now, but my clients also leave with a lot of tools to help them remember those things. Okay. So we talk about that, and then we actually start the whole process, which I use a neutral gray to just neutralize the person's coloring. Because if you guys came in with what you're wearing today, even though you both look so beautiful, we actually have to take away all the color around you in order to find your true color harmony. Okay. So I would cover your hair if it's colored. We take off all makeup, put this gray on you, gray backdrop. I wear gray behind you because even my color behind you can change the way that you appear in the mirror and throw off the process. So I wear gray. We just neutralize. And then we start a systematic approach to color for you. And like I said earlier, trained and certified by True Color International. They really are the gold standard in color analysis. So it goes very, very in depth. So even the system, like you would see in my studio, this full rack of these beautiful calibrated drapes that I will lay across your shoulders and go through this whole process. And from start to finish, there's a system. So it is like process of comparison, then elimination. There's a whole science to color and to your coloring. And I think clients are very, by the end, I've heard actually many times from people, they'll say, I've never seen color like this before. Like I don't view the world like this, but now my mind is changed. Like the way that I've seen the colors around me, the way that I've seen people around me. It's just fascinating. Just the shift, even in your perspective after you come and see your true color harmony. But during the time, you also see some disharmony. So you learn and understand what colors to not wear, because those types of colors change you in that kind of negative way, creating this optical illusion. It could be like some shadowing around the jawline, or it might be under the eye area. Honestly, you guys, sometimes people's faces fully change color. Like if a color is too bright, it's like a very bright blue, they turn fully blue. If it's too bright yellow, they turn yellow. Or if it's too cool, they might turn blue or yellow. They turn with warm really yellow. So it's just every person's different, and that's what's also fun, is celebrating that unique beauty. But as a trained analyst, what I'm taught to do is look for those 3 dimensions throughout the time and then put it together to find your final color palette. And your final color palette, it has 65 colors in it, and they're good for anything in your life. So 65 colors with our method. You will leave with this beautiful swatch book. This is for like design purposes for my house, but look at all this. These are some of my colors. Okay. I know I'm showing you on the screen and the listeners don't get to hear this. So sorry guys, or see it, but you get 65 colors for your makeup, home decor, business branding, book covers. I've worked with some authors when they put their colors into their book covers. Also your clothing, that's really important. And it can simplify your life in the end because you're not spending as much money. You won't just buy anything that someone tells you to buy, you really get to do what's best for you and your personal beauty and coloring. And there's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, I would see how, as someone who has decision fatigue, it helps eliminate a lot of things right away.
Yes.
If you've decided, I'm going to focus on purchasing only items, clothing, let's just say for clothing, that are within my palette, then it just kind of reduces the options by quite a bit, and it simplifies decision making.
Yes. And then you will actually, so it simplifies decision making, right? You're actually able to save time too, because when you go into a store and you see, oh, my range isn't here. Like I can just leave, I don't need to spend all this time in here and trying things on. And then saving the money. I've husbands who even say like they'll come back to get their colors done. Their wives will bring them back. And they're like, thank you so much. Because we've saved a lot of money. Because we're just not buying as much anymore, too, on a practical scale, So yeah, decision fatigue, saving money, saving time, a lot of practical benefits that people realize over time after using their colors, like, wow, this has helped a lot, but honestly, you guys, it also is it's seeing yourself the way God made you, getting back to that part of this, like part of your beauty, that you're designed with intention. And so you will feel better in your colors because it goes with you. It works with you. They work with you. Ultimately you'll grow in confidence too. So it's a really neat process.
Well, it's interesting because I need to come to Dallas and just do it with you, Rebecca, but
that would be fun.
I'm doing it, but I know I'm high chroma. Like I already know that because whenever I wear really amped up of like a jewel tone, that's when people will say like, oh, that color looks pretty, whatever. So it's actually become a joke. Like, where my sister will say, is that high chroma? Is that high chroma? But what I'm asking is how, like, sometimes it's really obvious, but like, how does a person know, like, what is chroma? And why is it that maroon doesn't look good on me, but if you like amp up maroon and that will, like, what is that?
Yes. So it's the difference of saturation. Yeah. So some people actually need more. They still have the rainbow, but they need more muted colors. So it'd be like a sage green, versus like a bright Kelly green. You know what I mean? So there's differences, right? So same with like a soft pink versus like a bright fuchsia. Different, both pink, but different. And so chroma makes a big difference for people. So like for you, you may be in harmony with that higher chroma, right? So you're going to look more balanced and beautiful. But if, like, let's say, and I don't know both of your palette ranges yet, but I will someday. Alex, if Alex then wore the high chroma, that could look different on her, where she's kind of washed out and taken over. So it wouldn't be the same harmonious effect that it would be on you. We all have our differences and that range.
So is it true that if someone tends to be high chroma, that they will be for all the colors in their palette?
Yes. So we actually have a palette. It's called Bright Winter. And that's someone with winter and spring influence, their own 65 colors. They are cool, neutral, and undertone. And they have very, very bright tones, very bright colors. But within their palette range, it's not just like, oh, every color is like in your face. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They still will have some like deeper, richer tones, richer colors, like their own versions of like black and navy, fashion neutral tones, browns. So there still is a wide variety and range amongst the palette. So it's not just like, oh, I'm only wearing really bright or let's say neon colors,
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their own range, and that would be their value space, because you have the chroma for people. The value space is the light to dark range within each palette. And then the undertone, of course, really makes a big difference too.
So is that why, like, some people will say, I can't wear black, or I look washed out in white? So is it not that they can't wear white? It's just they can't wear certain kinds of whites. And maybe there's a different kind of white. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, you are. Yep. So different versions of white. Some people might need more of like an almond white or an oatmeal white, a softer white, kind of more pinky white. Have you ever like painted a white wall? Have you guys ever done that and gotten
Mm-hmm.
all of those swatches from Home Depot? And it's like, how many swatches of white can there be? So many, right? It's the same for people. I think with like Instagram influencers and stuff, you know, we often hear like, okay, go buy that crisp white button up. Like that's a staple piece that you want in your closet. Have you guys heard that before? The crisp white
Yes.
button down. Okay. Well, that's not good for everyone because what it actually does is it creates this, like, for some people, this reflection up on their skin. So the next time you wear a crisp white button down, look for this, okay? Where you lose your jawline, it flattens your face, creates this high reflection because it's too bright for like a lot of people. So yeah, different versions are better. It may not just be stark white, stark black. Nope. There's probably more options. And there are more options. Even in black with the palettes, you know, whether it's like a soft black, a warm neutral black, a more brown black, a gray black. So many different versions of black, but every single one of our 12 palettes has their own version in it. So that's people like that. There are options.
Yeah. And so do you do men as much as women? I mean, I'm assuming you do more women than men, but do you do a lot of men as well?
Yes, a lot of men come in. I would say it is definitely more women at this stage, but a lot of men do still come. So they could be, I mean, think about, they have the same faces, right? We all have skin, we all have eye colors, hair colors, everything. Men need color analysis just as much as women do. If not, I wouldn't say even more. I was going to say that, but no. we all could use it.
Like for work.
Yeah.
Men would love their lives to be simplified. Like send me to the store and just tell me what to get and I'm out of there. Like that actually sounds like a dream for them.
Yeah. Give the color palette to the Nordstrom person and just be like, here, these are my colors. This is what I'm sticking to. What do you have? You know, it simplifies their lives. So yeah. And think about men with like suits. I've had male clients come in where they're getting custom suits made, and those custom suits are pricey. So wanting to make sure that those colors work best on them, like what is their best versions of navy, or how about the browns, you know, or version of black? There are options. And so needing harmony is key, and it can be done. But guys, I think guys are catching on the power of it for them in their workplaces and also in how they feel too. So it's changing.
Yeah.
So good.
What about skin tones? Does this apply to all skin tones, and how does that come into play?
I love all the different skin tones and the different types of people that I see every single month. It's really, really fun seeing that beauty. This applies, to every person, every skin tone, because we each have our own 3 dimensions of color. And I've worked with a lot of different women, different tones throughout the years, and it is fun seeing like what makes certain people look really dull and what makes people look more harmonious and alive, you know. But it really is particular to the person who sits down and goes through the process, you know, and how their skin works with certain hue, value, and chroma. We always go back to the 3 dimensions of color. But yes, anyone and everyone this applies to. It's really neat. Also think about like the beauty of people, you know, how God has made us all and the diverse range of coloring that exists in human coloration. I mean, it's fascinating. I could just like geek out on that all day.
Well, because you're an artist. I mean, really at heart, like you're an artist with people. You just have your palette is just like skin tone and hair color. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you talk about is makeup, which same thing. I mean, I'm sure everyone's had that experience where someone has said, oh, wow, that lipstick looks really good on you, or that eyeshadow looks really good on you. And it is true that we can't just all wear that one shade of brown. I mean, maybe there's one that a company makes that fits all skin tones. I don't know. But I think it's interesting that you even apply this to makeup. So can you talk about that?
So makeup is a big part of the colors that we wear, right? So thinking about lipstick, blush, eyeshadow, you're so right, Krista. Needing to be in harmony is key because, I mean, I'm sure that you've had friends like I remember friends in college where they would have like really pretty lipstick. It was like this kind of pink tone. One friend of mine, she would wear it and I'd be like, oh, she looks so good. Then I would go buy that from Walmart and it did not look so good on me, like the Revlon or whatever brand it was, CoverGirl. And it did not look good on me. Well, guess what? Because it's not in my color harmony. So we all have our own makeup colors that we need for our harmony. So your palette actually has all of those in it. So the best eyeshadow tones, the best blush tones, the lipstick tones as well. Which for me personally, my drawer, I don't even have a drawer of makeup anymore. It's like all in one compact bag. And it's so simplified because I don't have a million lipsticks that I'm trying out. I don't have a million blushes, It has made such a difference. And I see that for a lot of my clients, just simplifying even your makeup bag and drawer, etc. But even like what might look good on you, Krista, may not be best on Alex. Like I just look at you both on the screen right now and I think, okay, you have some differences to your coloring, and your own unique harmony that exists.
So what about hair color? Because women change their hair color by choice frequently, and then sometimes hair color changes for us. How do we incorporate that when we're making decisions? And I think I've seen some of your Instagram posts about clients who have even gone and changed their hair color because of their new information that they have from you.
Yes. So your natural hair is always best. Some people don't love that news because they're like, oh, I always thought my hair was mousy, or I always thought this or that, but your natural hair is always best. Because that is meant to go with your coloring. There's purpose to your natural hair color and your natural pigment in your hair and everything, right? So when I do suggest like hair color change, it's normally when someone comes in with the wrong version of hair color that is colored, right? Not their natural.
Mm-hmm.
Their natural will always be best. So so there are women who have really gained a lot of confidence from this part of their analysis process because they may have thought, oh, blonde was best, but blonde in the end was actually really washing them out. And they were trying to counteract everything with more makeup or a brighter outfit or whatever that would actually take away from them trying to match the bright blonde hair. And it was not best. And so I've seen a lot of women transition back to closer to their kind of natural range. That's created some more harmony for them. Or it's like, hey, if you can have some blonde in your hair, let's talk about the right versions of blonde for you. Do you need more ashy or do you need more of the golden, more of the neutral? Where do you fall? To then those who really are embracing their brunette roots, and they're just natural space. But if you look at your face, a big part of our coloring is our hair. It surrounds us.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting your hair color right and in harmony with you is so, so important.
For women whose hair color is going the other direction, it's getting lighter with gray and white. Does that change their analysis, or is it, can they assume their palette is the same because you are kind of removing their hair as part of the analysis?
So your hair color, even when it's gray, is in harmony with you. Gray hair is just a loss of pigment. It doesn't mean that your undertone has changed. That's a common thought that people have as we're aging, is that, oh, if I'm getting more gray, then I must be cooler now in my undertone. Not true. There are plenty of people who have warm undertones but gray hair. So your gray, like as your hair starts lightening, there are ways to continue that harmony. So there are hairstylists who can help women transition into their natural gray space or help to kind of cover it, but with more of it still looking more natural, instead of just doing kind of like a harsh coloring on top or too bright or like platinum, which may not be best for some. And so there are ways to transition that. But I've actually had a lot of clients now who are embracing their natural gray. And because when they're wearing the right colors and they're wearing the right makeup, the right colors, of clothing, and then their natural hair, they're in full harmony. So they don't feel washed out. They don't feel like, oh, now I need to do something else, But some people don't want to go gray. My mom, she's never going to go gray. Like, she will always color her hair, but we found the best tone that works for her. So she continues to stay in harmony still,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, harmony. It's just so key. And what I like about it is you're not comparing yourself to other people, because what looks good on that person really may not be what looks good on you. In fact, there was a celebrity the other day and I saw this person on Instagram and I gasped a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, like they completely changed their hair color and it does not look good on her. Like she looked way better with her natural color than this blonde thing that she did. And I was like, wow, like that was kind of anticipating our interview. I was thinking that's a perfect example. And I'm not going to say who it is because that would be totally rude, but like that was a perfect example of she actually took herself out of harmony by doing this new hair color that actually may be popular, but it doesn't look good on her skin tone. And so it is so interesting to think of it that way. And it prevents us from comparing and maybe wanting what someone else has when we know what you just said, actually what our more natural coloring is what God gave us. It's for a reason. It actually does look better.
It does. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
I think people don't know what they don't know, right? They just don't know what they don't know. And I think our world, again, we're surrounded by like constant change and being told to change. And so if that's what we've heard for 35, 40, 50, 60 years, 70 years of our life, it's, people just don't know what they don't know. So, but it is funny because sometimes I will see people and I'm like, oh, I wish I could like go give her my card and say, hey, I would love to do your colors someday, but I don't know how people would take that. So I have yet to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rebecca. This has been so helpful. What would your final words be to women as they are considering their coloring and how uniquely they've been made?
You are fearfully and wonderfully made. God has designed you with intention and purpose. You are gifted and beautiful just the way that you are. And honestly, embracing that, there's so much freedom there. There is. We have freedom in Christ, of course, but freedom in embracing your natural beauty and the way that you are meant to be. I think I would just want to encourage y'all in that.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll see you in Dallas, Rebecca. We'll see you in Dallas.
I'm ready for you.